well.
Hi there, this is Chief Meteorologist Mallory Schnell with a severe weather update. We do have a tornado warning in effect, which is why we are breaking into regular programming here. You can see it here in the red polygon. So this is heading toward E-Town if it continues on its path. This is for areas included in Grayson County and Hardin County until 10:15 Eastern Time, 9:15 Central Time. We've been watching this one particular storm that's had a history of trying to rotate. It's been moving around Grayson County, around the Litchfield area, and pushing off to the northeast at 30 miles per hour. And it does look like, just to be safe, the National Weather Service went ahead and issued an outlying severe thunderstorm warning box. That's what you're seeing in that yellow or orange color outside of the tornado warning that we currently have in place. So the areas that are included in the tornado warning until 10:15 Eastern Time, 9:15 Central Time, it includes Cecilia, St. Paul, Eastview, White Mills, Hansborough, Addington Field Airport, White Mills Junction, Glendale, Harcourt, and Big Clifty. So I'm going to put on the radar here, and we're going to talk through this storm while it continues to be warned here. We've been talking about this severe weather threat. We issued a weather impact alert day due to the threat of course, widespread heavy rainfall, but also the threat of some rotation. And it does look like this storm right on the tail end is tapping into some of that. You can kind of notice the squiggle nature of it. So this is, you can see the red polygon on the outside. That is your tornado warning. And then I have overlaid the radar view here. So heavy rainfall, this would not be something that you would be able to really see. It would be rain wrapped, that rotation there. But we have been dealing with some of the velocity trying to tighten up at times. It's been a pretty steady signature that we've been seeing where winds are kind of blowing out. You can tell where things are a bit bright here, right here, getting close to the county line. So this is east of West Clifty, where you're seeing that brighter color there on the rotation, and on its path, it's continuing to push off to the east and northeast around 30 miles per hour. So once again, we do have a tornado warning in effect for really the far eastern portions of Grayson County heading into Hardin County. And I'm going to look up some of the more detailed information on this from the National Weather Service, and I'll put a tracker on it. So it is, as I mentioned, moving off to the northeast around 30 miles per hour. So I'm going to put a track on this around where the area of rotation is, so you can get more of the timing here if it continues on its path and at the same speed. So you're looking at 9:50 Eastern Time, Eastview, 9:55 West Hardin Middle School, that general area, 9:56 Eastern, Stevensburg, 9:59 Hansborough, 10:01 Franklin Cross Roads, 10:05 Cecilia, 10:09 Addington Field, and 10:09 also around Gaithers. So I'm looking at the information in real time, also coming from the National Weather Service office here. We all communicate in real time. It's coming a little bit stronger. So yeah, this storm has definitely been showing signs of wanting to rotate. Once again, this is a very interesting setup that we do have here where we don't have a ton of storm fuel. You have to think about the fact that the sun has set. So that really cuts into any kind of storm fuel that you might have, but there is a lot of shear. So that is what we're seeing here on the map, and the reason why the National Weather Service did want to go ahead and issue this tornado warning to be safe. Bigger picture view, once again, this is all south of Louisville. Louisville, if I turn on the Cape or where we do have this storm fuel, you'll notice where all of it's located. So this storm is probably going to want to ride this general corridor where there is just more storm fuel to work with. So you're talking about Grayson County over to Hardin County, and if it hangs together, it would continue to push off to the east and northeast from there. The farther north that you do go, you're north of the warm front. We've had more cloud cover, steady rain in the Louisville metro area. So all of this that we're tracking here is off to your south. However, even if you're not included in the severe weather threat, we have been seeing flash flooding concerns, and many of us are included in a flood watch until 5 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. But once again, the reason why we're cutting into coverage here, for those of you all who might just be hopping on the stream, if you got the notification on your phone, we do have a tornado warning in effect. It's moving out of eastern Grayson County and now moving into Hardin County right now. And honestly, it's moving very quickly. So I do think that this polygon will have to probably be extended and pushed further off to the northeast if it continues on this speed here. But let me put on velocity. So what you were looking at there was a radar view. And then when we look at velocity, this is a way to check out wind speed and direction. And usually if you're looking for any kind of tornadic signature or any kind of rotation, you are looking for reds and greens that are near each other and moving in opposite directions. This one's kind of tricky because it's in between radars where its view is, but what I'm looking at is right here. It might be subtle, but right now it's right on the county line. So this would be heading toward East View. It looks like it's south of 62. At this point, it's to the northeast of West Clifty. So this bright little area here is that spot of rotation that they're paying attention to. And I can overlay where the warning is to show you the general track. So red polygon always means tornado warning in our system. Yellow polygon means severe thunderstorm warning. So still exhibiting strong winds along that segment, but then you're just looking at that little embedded rotation there. And this has been a really tricky setup today because, as I mentioned, not a big severe weather outbreak for us, just kind of a soggy, rainy, stormy day, but there is a lot of shear, a lot of wind rotation, a lot of changing of wind speeds and direction with height. So all it took was one storm to be strong enough to really tap into some of that energy and to be able to rotate. And that's what we're seeing here. So this little area is starting to make its way outside of Grayson County and will continue on its trek through Hardin County. So heads up, E-Town, this is still a ways away from you. You know, the warning that we currently have in effect is probably for another, I believe, half hour, 10:15 Eastern, 9:15 Central. But if it hangs together, you'll want to just head indoors. Does look like they're trimming back, as I mentioned. You can see that overlaying polygon. So they're trimming the southwestern side of this, which is great as it moves out of Grayson County. They have been, Grayson County, you are cleared from the tornado warning. Now Hardin County, Eastview, this is approaching your area next. And then as it continues on that track, once again, it would be moving closer to E-Town. So Cecilia, it does look like it might get close to Glendale, but likely be off to the north there, riding what looks like 222, 62, areas like Star Mills, Eastview, Cecilia, and then as I mentioned, if it continues onward, it would be moving into E-Town. So if you are in Hardin County, if you're in Grayson County, your alerts went off, your phone went off, maybe you're hearing the sirens. They will be trimming back the Grayson County portion of this tornado warning because all of this is now off to your east and northeast, but it will continue onward into Hardin County here for the next 30 minutes or so. So I just want to take a big picture view here. This is what we're looking at, riding right along the parkways here. So areas off to the north, if you're Louisville northward, we are just seeing showers, heavy rainfall at times, ponding on the roads, some localized flooding concerns. Where we have just more of that fuel to tap into, we're seeing enough of those storms tapping into that fuel, tapping into that rotation, and trying to tighten up on rotation, trying to rotate there and produce a short-lived tornado. So what you're looking at here, once again, that is storm fuel. We don't have a ton of it. It's still on low to moderate, but when you have enough of the other ingredients, it definitely doesn't take much to create a rotating storm. So these are all the active warnings that we do have. We also do have a few flash flood warnings while I'm on here. I do want to draw your attention to. So this one is for central Breckinridge County until 11:30 Central Time tonight due to rain between 1 to 3 inches and additional rainfall amounts between 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches that we've already seen this evening. And then this other flash flood warning for our viewing area that's been in place for several hours now eastern Shelby County into western Franklin County until 10:45. That was due to 2 to 3 inches of rainfall earlier in the evening. And then you'll notice, obviously, the severe warnings that we've been talking about here since we hopped on, riding right along the parkways there, Eastview over to E-Town. So we have the bigger picture view in the yellow of the severe thunderstorm warning, where we could see some stronger gusts. And then within that pocket, the tornado warning. So let's bring you back to radar. I'm going to take off some of this noise and then I'll put back on the warning so we can know what we're looking at here. Obviously, anytime you get a line that might have some notches and nubs, this isn't quite the same thing that we're looking at when we have squall lines. But you can have little segments of a line that tries to tap into some of that rotation. It's the easiest to view if you turn on velocity. This is what this is for. Now, National Weather Service did just mention this, and I certainly see it as well. So I'm putting this on a loop, and if you blink, you might miss it. That little bright color, here, I'm going to take it back and forward. I'm going to try to, you see that little bright color that we have? I'm going to circle it. So this was a previous scan of rotation. And then if we go to now, it's broadened out a bit, which is good news. We want it to broaden out. We don't want tight rotation. Tight rotation means a storm is trying to, quote unquote, get its act together, trying to rotate, trying to produce a brief tornado. But when it broadens out a bit, it loses some of that intensity, and it might prevent it from lowering and producing a tornado. So that's going to be a trend that the National Weather Service continues to eye scan after scan here over the next few minutes to see if that's a trend that continues. And if so, they might be able to drop the warning early. And that's the kind of thing with this setup that we have with a very marginal conditional setup. You're not looking at long track tornadoes. You're not looking at, several tornadoes on the ground at once. You're looking at these storms that want to rotate, that want to tighten up, that might drop a brief, weak tornado and then pick back up. Of course, we'll have to watch that downstream for any kind of general trends if it wants to drop another storm or another tornado once it gets downstream. But in the meantime, the reason why we're on coverage and it's we stay on for you on TV and on streaming until tornado warnings have been allowed to expire or be canceled. But this one in particular was issued at 9:45 Eastern time. That's the latest update with it, at least. We had it earlier down the road, but when they trimmed it back, moving it out of Grayson County and into Hardin County, the latest update with this warning was at 9:45, so just a few minutes ago, taking us still through 10:15, storm still moving around 30 miles per hour. So if it continues on its track, it will be toward E-Town just before 10 p.m. Eastern time. So let me actually put a track on this. Let me see if I can still find where it's trying to rotate. Yeah, it is looking a bit more broad. And as I mentioned, hopefully that continues. But if you're around Eastview, it would be in your area right now. And I'm going to put a track on this at 30 miles per hour. I would say it's probably moving a bit quicker than that because that has it out of the warning around 10:15. So it's probably moving quicker than the miles per hour that they put in the warning text. But if it sticks to 30 miles per hour, this is what you're looking at here. You can see the timing there on your screen. Cecilia at 10:06, Gaithers at 10:10, E-Town at 10:17, and so on. So I'm going to log back into this computer to see if there are any updates from the National Weather Service. But as always, if you're included in a tornado warning, it means seek shelter, head indoors, get off the roads, and just wait until that storm passes. These are very brief and usually weak tornadoes, thankfully. In general, you're probably just going to be dealing with gusty winds. You won't really be able to see anything with it because there's a lot of rain, obviously, here. And the interesting part about this is there's not a lot of lightning. So as I mentioned before, we're really lacking in fuel, but sometimes even if you're lacking in fuel, you can overcome that with enough forcing and with enough shear. So it does look like there's been a little bit less lightning with this storm as it continues to progress off to the east and northeast, maybe encountering a less favorable environment to tap into any of that fuel. But beyond that, we still do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect that goes all the way to the northeast toward Lebanon Junction, just south of Shepherdsville. And National Weather Service does say they're going to keep the tornado warning for a little bit longer. The couplet keeps widening, so they will cancel it early if this trend continues. They're being safe rather than sorry, which I do appreciate, of course. So at the very least, obviously, we're dealing with heavy rainfall, gusty winds. At the very most, we have a storm that's trying to rotate, has a history of some rotation, potentially dropping a brief weak tornado in Butler County earlier tonight. And these were the storms that I was most focused on. If you were watching, I did a live stream earlier this evening on WHAS 11+, and I was watching these storms coming out of more so western Kentucky, basically where you're not dealing with the widespread rainfall. And if you're dealing with these storms that are a bit more out on their own, they can tap into any of that instability and can tap into the shear as well. So that's what we're looking at here. I do want to go back and talk about the flooding concerns as well, because we have had some training, which occurs when showers and storms move over the same areas, dropping a lot of heavy rainfall. Obviously, it's been a wet week where we've had day after day of rain, and because of that, many of us included in a flood watch until 5 a.m. on Saturday. All the counties that you see highlighted here in green. So this is basically from Louisville to the north and off to the east. A flood watch is in effect. And in addition to that, we do have a few flash flood warnings, the first of which we've been tracking since earlier this evening for southeastern Shelby County until 10:45 due to 2 to 3 inches of rain that fell there. And then you're looking at also, of course, the flash flood warning near Hardinsburg in central Breckinridge County. But the reason we're cutting in, for those who might have hopped on a little bit late, who might have gotten the notification, went to go find information on this, is due to this tornado warning that you're seeing in the red box here. So this is cutting right through Hardin County, Eastview up to E-Town. Bigger picture just outside of the box to kind of cover that whole segment of the storm is a severe thunderstorm warning that goes all the way up into southern Bullitt County until 10:15 Eastern Time, 9:15 Central Time. So we're watching a few more scans of this storm to see if that rotation that we keep talking about, if the couplet, so anytime we talk about a couplet, that is the red and green that you tend to see on velocity radar, if that continues to broaden and weaken, the National Weather Service may cancel this tornado warning early. But in the meantime, they're keeping it just to be safe for the next several scans here to see how this storm continues to evolve. So what we're looking at here, the areas included in this in this tornado warning in the red box: Eastview, Star Mills, Cecilia. If this means 62 is kind of what this is riding up here, and we'll eventually be approaching I-65 near E-Town if it hangs together. Rhineyville, you're probably getting the alert for this, but it does look like a lot of that rotation that we were at least looking at was more so down to the south. So we were seeing it near Big Clifty. That was over when it was in Grayson County. And it's continued to push off to the east and northeast. So it's a bit harder to find on here now. So I believe they're probably going to lose this tornado warning here soon. So once that is the case, we can drop our wall-to-wall coverage on TV. I want to continue the stream that we have, if possible, for just a little bit longer on our digital platforms until I know that this storm is completely dissipating and weakening. But I will wait until we get the all clear on this. So some good news there with the storm continuing to weaken. We'll see if it does get updated here in the next few minutes. But it's basically just losing any kind of tight rotation that it was wanting to have. So let's see here. Usually my system takes a moment to update. Regardless, it's still going to be a soggy night across the area. Once again, if you're watching this from the Louisville Metro, you're just dealing with some steady showers. There's really no storm fuel that far north. We're north of the front here in Louisville and areas off into southern Indiana. Where we're looking with a little bit more of that punch are those spots down to the south. And once again, this storm and this segment of storms, the National Weather Service, we have been watching since it was in Butler County, wanting to rotate. There's been a lot of storms that we've been paying attention to with weak couplets tonight. Just some very weak spinning, basically, of some storms here. But this is continuing to push to the northeast and weaken as it does so, which is obviously a trend that we do like to see. So I believe within the next minute, this tornado warning should be canceling on my end of things. They'll probably keep right on cue. They're going to keep the severe thunderstorm warning with basically what they call a tornado possible tag. And that means, just to be safe, hey, this storm that we've been watching has a history of rotating, but no longer needs the full tornado warning status on it. So with all that said and done, for the TV side of things, we can go back to regular programming if possible. For our producers, if we can stay on streaming, that would be great. But now, for the TV side, we will send it back to regular programming. I'll have an update again on WHAS 11 News live at 11 o'clock.